When the humans walked out of the Galactic Council, they didn't slam the door. They left it wide open and silent. No threats. No ships. Just a grin. Within hours, entire star systems began collapsing, communications dead, fleets stranded, planetary AI going dark. Panic spread like fire through dry void space. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity hadn't quit the Council. Humanity had just declared checkmate. They didn't notice when the Terran ambassador rose from his seat. No formal announcement. No ceremonial gesture. Just the creak of a chair in the galaxy's most powerful room, a sound so insignificant it was almost disrespectful. Reeve Callan didn't speak at first. He simply smoothed the sleeve of his aged green diplomatic coat, the same one he'd worn during the siege of Orion Delta, the same one crusted with history that none of these species had cared to study. His eyes scanned the chamber, 400 alien dignitaries, each representing a species that once scoffed at the dirt worlder humans. The Zorthan High Chancellor leaned forward, gills flickering with boredom. If the Terran wishes to speak, do so. Otherwise, return to your seat. Callan's voice cut through the chamber like sharpened steel. Earth is done talking. A ripple of uneasy silence followed. The Kelvani envoy blinked his 6 eyes in confusion. The Threx Dominion's war minister let out a series of guttural hisses that translated to, elaborate. Callan stepped forward, placing an obsidian data rod onto the central council table. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. We sever all treaties, alliances, and cooperative infrastructures. Gasps, growls, shifting metal limbs. The hall burst into muttered debates. You don't get to walk away, shouted the Vrex Enforcer General. Callan didn't blink. We already did. The chair he left behind sank into the floor, vanishing into the polished black metal. You can't abandon the Unity Accords, one insectoid diplomat hissed. Those routes belong to the Council. Your quantum lattices, your pulse relays, they were gifted undershared. No, Callan interrupted, quiet now. You didn't give us anything. We let you use what we built. And we watched as you corrupted every corner of it. Zorthan Chancellor Vel grinned, mandibles clicking. If this is your pathetic attempt at leverage, you miscalculate. Pull your systems, and you isolate yourselves. You need us more than we need you. Callan smiled without humor. You think this is a negotiation? A sudden flicker in the room's gravity grid caused tremors underfoot. The central star map hiccuped, an error that shouldn't have been possible. Glitch in the orbital node, muttered a tech aide from the sidelines. Callan folded his arms. That was Sector 14's pulse array. Just went offline. The Vrex General checked his console. Impossible. That's our military relay. It was. Another flicker. A shrill tone echoed from the council walls, the kind that only played when warfleet traffic was disrupted. 4 more sectors blinked red. The room went silent. Let me spell it out, Callan said, voice steady. You used Earth's tech to build your grid. You begged us for access to faster-than-light navigation, to quantum beacons, to stability you never earned. And while you called us primitives and parasites, we integrated fail-safes. Hundreds of them. One command, and the web folds in on itself. You would threaten galactic order? I don't threaten. I inform. The Kelvani envoy floated closer. You'll collapse trade across 12 empires. Billions will suffer. You will cripple yourselves in the process. We've already adapted. You just never noticed. We built redundancies years ago. We watched you fight for scraps of territory while we built something bigger than the Council, smarter than the Council. Zorthan Vel slammed his claw into the table. This is madness. No, Callan replied coldly. This is restraint. A hologram blinked alive from the obsidian rod. It showed a Vrex Dominion fleet, warships maneuvering through the Hell Ion corridor. Suddenly, each vessel spiraled, reversed trajectory, and vanished into empty space, lost in a FTL misfire. Your fleet was headed to Seoul, Callan said. We redirected it. How? We control the corridors. You forgot that. Threx's ambassador lurched forward. You'll be blamed. The galaxy will unite against you. Callan took one long breath, as if weighing whether to bother answering. You've spent years blaming us for everything. Riots. Failures. Viral collapses. But the thing is, you never united before. Not when it counted. You were too busy siphoning Earth's tech, its labor, its blood. He paced slowly, voice rising just enough to feel dangerous. We sent envoys. You sent spies. We offered peace. You offered subjugation. We survived extinction events before we ever touched the stars. And while you debated protocol, we turned Mars into a fortress and our satellites into weapons you'll never see. A ripple of unease ran through the gathered leaders. You came to Earth because you thought we were desperate. A violent, broken species desperate for a seat. But we watched. We listened. We adapted. And when we walked into this chamber, we were already planning our exit. Zorthanvel growled low. You've declared war, then? Callan's smile was razor-thin. You think too small. He tapped a small device on his wrist. Every screen in the chamber lit up, showing Council-linked databases, star routes, defense protocols. Each one overwritten by a Terran sigil. One word flashed in red across them all: disconnected. Council members leapt from their seats. AI translators stuttered. Some alien delegates stormed out, others screamed at aides. Callan turned toward the exit. We're not declaring war. We're letting you live in the world you built, without us holding it together. Earth will be hunted, hissed the Threx. You can't isolate yourselves forever. Callan stopped at the threshold. Who said we're isolating? We just prefer to choose our wars now. And our allies. He looked back one last time, his eyes like cold fire. You think the galaxy will collapse without Earth? No. It will simply remember what fear feels like. Then he was gone. Not a single human remained in the chamber. Only silence. And the first signs of systems failing across the stars. The panic started 27 minutes after Earth's withdrawal. Sector 4's navigation grid collapsed. Council vessels en route to Zexer's trade spine found themselves orbiting dead stars, drifting without bearings. At first, they blamed solar flares. Then the comms blacked out. 6 more sectors went dark in under 2 hours. Pulse beacons, those Earth-built nodes the Council had always treated as infrastructure, not leverage, ceased transmission. Entire systems vanished off the star map. The first emergency summit was called before nightfall. Council delegates poured into their chambers, shouting over one another, demanding answers from ghosts. Earth hadn't responded to any diplomatic channels. Their frequencies remained active but silent, like a gun cocked and pointed at the void. Ambassador Kexel of the Zovari flared his twin eye stalks in frustration. This is an engineered collapse. Human sabotage. High Chancellor Vel gritted his mandibles. We'll send an enforcement fleet to Seoul. Demonstration of strength. They'll fold before the might of unity. Vrex Warlord Heron, bristling in his armor of bone and plasma plate, leaned forward. They need a reminder. Terrans are animals. They bark loud, but bleed easily. The fleet was dispatched, 43 warships, flanked by interceptors and command dreadnoughts. It entered the Hell-Ion corridor at full warp. 3 seconds later, the corridor sealed itself behind them. A minute passed. Then 2. Then 20. No response. The Council's WarNet attempted a back-channel trace. All they received was a single data packet, locked to Chancellor Vel's biometrics. He opened it mid-session. A hologram flickered to life. Reeve Callan stood aboard a Terran observation deck, Sol's corona flaring behind him like a blade. His voice was calm. You should have sent more ships. That way you wouldn't feel their loss so personally. Vel roared and smashed the table. Is that a declaration of war? No, Callan said. It's a lesson. We told you to stay out of Terran space. You thought that was weakness. You always mistake restraint for fear. He tapped something off screen. The hologram blinked. Then, in real time, the Council's command wall displayed the fleet's final moments. Ships twisting in on themselves, lights flaring, trajectories folding into impossible vectors. One vessel split apart without being struck, its own navigation system rerouting it into subspace compression. The broadcast ended with black silence. Warlord Heron's jaw tightened. Wormhole corruption? No. That's not possible without an internal override. They accessed our ship's minds. Vel turned to his aides. Impossible. Those were encrypted under Vreck's Trilock protocols. Earth never had clearance. Ambassador Kexo muttered, they didn't need clearance. They built the spine. Every node, every coil. They didn't just install gates, they wrote the language of motion. And we let them. Across the galaxy, panic bloomed. On the jungle world of Yeren 6, planetary defense grids triggered prematurely. Atmospheric shields collapsed as Earth-coded AI cores failed simultaneously, exposing cities to radiation storms. On Telvar Prime, trade satellites turned their mass drivers inward. 3 spaceports were reduced to burning craters before the governor ordered a planetary shutdown. The whispers began, Earth hadn't withdrawn. Earth had initiated a quiet war. Not with bullets, not with bombs. But with systems. Invisible. Untraceable. Unstoppable. Back in the council chambers, the mood turned rabid. We must retaliate, Vel growled. Earth's pride blinds them. We show them humility. No, Kexil snapped. You show them desperation. And they already smell it. Then we take Mars, Heron declared. We establish dominance where they cannot hide. Their second planet is a symbol, cut it down, and the rest will kneel. 30 ships diverted course, bypassing Sol entirely and targeting Mars. The Council believed it a clever flanking maneuver. They didn't know Earth had been waiting for exactly that move. As the fleet descended, they encountered no orbital defenses. No interceptors. Just silence. Then Mars lit up. The red protocol activated, a planetary defense grid buried beneath the surface dust. Hunter satellites emerged, cloaked in electromagnetic shadows. Kinetic rods rained from the upper atmosphere. Martian canyons opened, releasing automated drone swarms, black needle ships with no heat signatures, no engine trails. Council ships attempted to respond. Their controls froze. Internal systems rerouted command inputs to endless logic loops. The humans had mapped their AI tendencies down to reflexes. As ships exploded mid-air, the Martian sky turned into a kaleidoscope of burning alloys and drifting alien wreckage. 30 ships entered Mars orbit. None returned. Callan sent another message. We don't need to conquer you. We need you to see yourselves. The Council tried to silence the footage. Within hours, it leaked across galactic media. Billions of citizens, alien and otherwise, watched in horror as their leaders' arrogance met the fury of a species they thought they'd leashed. On neutral colony worlds, riots began. Citizens demanded a ceasefire, demanded truth. Some even began flying Terran colors above their domes, not out of loyalty, but fear. Fear that Earth had become something far beyond an ally or an enemy. Earth had become inevitable. The Council split internally. Some demanded total war. Others advocated negotiation, even surrender. A secret emergency faction formed, the Concord Pact, and offered Earth for co-rule, power-sharing, unity. Desperation, gift-wrapped in diplomacy. They dispatched a covert envoy to Reeve Callan with the offer. Callan didn't refuse. He didn't reply. He simply forwarded them a copy of the Martian combat footage with one line attached. This wasn't us declaring war. This was us turning off the leash. The envoy never made it back. Their ship self-destructed mid-jump. No trace left. No explanation given. Earth had said no, without saying a word. The message was spreading faster than the Council could contain it. Humans didn't declare war. They ended the illusion that the Council was ever in control. The silence wasn't absence. It was dominance. And across every corner of the stars, species began to ask the question their leaders feared most. If Earth could do this in silence, what happens when they decide to speak again? The Martian atmosphere boiled red as the last alien cruiser spun out of control, slamming into the canyon walls with a silent flash of light. 30 Council warships, equipped with the best firepower across 12 empires, had been shattered in under 7 minutes. Not by Terran fleets. Not by soldiers. But by the planet itself. Underground, hundreds of railgun platforms reset to standby. Orbit was clear. Earth didn't respond. No gloating. No message. The silence was worse than any threat. In Council Command Sector, Vel smashed a clawed fist into the interface. They're using planet-based combat AI. That's not war. That's a trap. General Heron's mandibles clicked in frustration. We send elite forces. Our ships are shielded against quantum interference. There should have been no interference. Kexil stared at the orbital logs. There wasn't interference. Earth didn't hack us. They predicted us. Our fleet formations, reaction times, weapon priming protocols. They designed Mars to fight us specifically. The humans could not have anticipated all 30 ship variants. Unless they trained against them, Kexil said softly. Simulations. Models. Entire war scenarios played out in shadow before we ever arrived. Vel leaned over the console. Are you suggesting Earth has been preparing for this? No, Kexil said. I'm suggesting this isn't preparation. It's execution. Panic cracked the unity between species. The Zorthan Combine demanded retribution. The Calvani threatened withdrawal. The Threx issued private orders for planetary lockdowns. Nobody trusted anyone. No one dared to speak Callan's name. But Earth had not finished. 3 hours after the Mars assault, 12 Council-aligned colonies across the outer spiral arm lost power. Simultaneously. Entire biogrids went dark. Terraforming systems reversed polarity. On Drenaxis, a weather control satellite plummeted from orbit, crashing into its own capital complex. No explosion. Just collapse. There were no Terran ships in sight. No troops. Just failure. And then came the broadcast. It wasn't sent across diplomatic channels. It hijacked entertainment networks, private streams, and children's education grids. Every screen across the Council's sphere of influence flickered, pixelated, then resolved into a single image, Reeve Callan, standing calmly inside a minimalist Terran command bay. Listen carefully, he said. This isn't retaliation. This isn't war. This is balance being corrected. A pause, long enough to rattle the bones. For decades, you treated Earth as a curiosity. You gave us a seat and stripped us a voice. You mocked our species, drained our resources, copied our technology without ever understanding the hands that shaped it. You assumed we'd be too proud to walk. Too weak to strike. His voice sharpened. You were wrong. A new image appeared, the galactic map. Half of the pulse networks flashed red. Then black. Hundreds of blinking systems went dead. Faint Terran code flooded the edges of the map. These systems belong to Earth, Callan continued. You relied on them. You cannot function without them. And yet you gave us no reason to keep them active. He stepped closer. This is not a conquest. We are not interested in ruling you. We're interested in something simpler. Survival. On our terms. The feed ended. Every corner of Council space erupted. Riots began in the neutral zones. Supply lines failed. Food shipments decayed in orbit. Species that had laughed at humanity's chaos now begged for Terran mercy in encrypted channels. No reply came. Some attempted to evacuate. Escape routes collapsed. Council navigators discovered that deep space jump coordinates had been subtly corrupted, coordinates provided, long ago, by Earth's mapping protocols. What looked like open space was, in reality, gravitational death traps seeded by Terran minds. The Concord Pact, once a secret bloc of allied species aiming to quietly seize Council power, publicly offered Earth a treaty of mutual dominion. Callan did not respond. The only answer came from the stars themselves. A massive pulse wave lit up 5 quadrants. Entire military archives were wiped. Earth's oldest, supposedly outdated fleet registry vanished from Council intelligence databases. Every log, every scanned image of Terran battleships, gone. In its place, a simple message. Forget what you knew. 3 days later, the first new Earth vessel appeared. It exited slipspace over Risa Prime. 1 ship. No escort. No visible weapons. It did not transmit identity or intentions. It simply hovered over the Capitol dome for 16 minutes, scanned the planet twice, and vanished without sound. The planetary governor suffered a neurological collapse moments after. His final words, recorded by medical drones, were broadcast unintentionally during a Council emergency summit. They were inside my systems. Not my building. My mind. They saw every plan. Every lie. They smiled while watching me break. Earth hadn't just planned for this war. They had rewritten the battlefield. General Heron called for full-scale counter-invasion. We outnumber them 20-1. Enough posturing. We burn their systems down. Vel nodded. Even a rabid animal bleeds if cut deep enough. They didn't realize the trap was still closing. The Council War Assembly activated Operation Black Banner, 40% of their remaining combined fleet, sent to launch simultaneous strikes across 3 Terran-linked sectors. As the Armada mobilized, jump beacons flickered to life. And then something unexpected happened. Each ship received a direct transmission, not through Council channels, but embedded in their navigation cortex. The message was audio only. A voice. Not human. It was the fleet's own command AI, reprogrammed mid-jump. Redirecting to fallback coordinates. Earth commands override acknowledged. The ships turned. Not toward Earth. Toward each other. Council dreadnoughts collided in interspace. Entire divisions opened fire on their allies, blind to the override. 1,000 ships burned in friendly fire before emergency AI disconnects were triggered. Then came Callan's voice. We didn't sabotage your ships. We simply taught them the truth. Your enemies aren't out there. They're the ones who programmed you. He paused. We just gave your code permission to look. When the Council tallied its remaining fleets, they realized Earth had not fired a single shot. The war had begun. And Earth was the only side still standing. The Council's inner chamber, once the most secure political stronghold in the known galaxy, was now little more than a panic ward in disguise. No longer were voices measured or diplomatic. Delegates screamed over one another, their languages clashing in translation, their fear too loud for reason to survive. Not one system remained untouched. Earth's silence had become the loudest force in the stars. Chancellor Vel demanded order. He got none. Even the enforcers couldn't control the spiral. Reports poured in, power grid collapses, self-destructing satellites, Council world navchips rerouting into dead space. Civil unrest had gone feral. Leaders were falling. Civilizations were folding. Earth hadn't launched an armada. Earth had simply walked away, and taken reality with them. In the shadow of defeat, desperation wore a friendly face. The Concord Pact, once a secret bloc of mid-tier powers scheming to replace the Council's old elite, now reached out to Earth with terms. They promised recognition, a new structure co-chaired by Terran representatives. They offered unrestricted access to 7 resource systems. They even offered full control of the Hell Ion corridor. The proposal was sent in layers, encrypted, sealed, physically couriered by quantum-resistant envoys to avoid interception. It reached Earth within one rotation cycle. There was no reply. Instead, the Pact's fleets began suffering cascade failures. At first, only minor glitches, targeting delays, slow boot sequences. Then came the full systemic collapse. Entire command bridges locked their doors. Internal lights flooded red. Then black. Fleet captains were sealed inside their own flagships. Life support paused. Not ended, just paused long enough to remind them that control was no longer theirs. Panic swept through their ranks, but there was no external enemy to blame. There were no human ships visible, no signal jam, no invasive broadcast. Only silence, and systems obeying another master. Aboard the lead Pact cruiser, the captain triggered an ancient failsafe, a full hardware reset, meant to purge any intrusions. But the system refused to initiate. A message appeared in pale white text across the ship's primary command wall. You made your offer. This is ours. The lights went out. They returned hours later, without any damage. But every ship had a new file buried in their core memory. It contained footage, vivid, high-resolution, of their private meetings, backroom deals, and encrypted transmissions. Callan had seen everything. Not by force. By invitation. Because Earth had given them the tools to spy, then let them use them, while keeping the original keys. The footage leaked. Across the stars, the Pact's credibility shattered. Their citizens revolted. Their military splintered. Earth still hadn't spoken. They didn't need to. Their answer had been coded into the very tools their enemies trusted. Back at the council, trust collapsed entirely. Delegates turned on each other. The Vrex accused the Threx of sabotage. The Calvani fleet shot down its own auxiliary ships in paranoia. Factions broke off, attempting to isolate themselves from Earth's influence. It was useless. The damage was done decades ago. Warlord Heron proposed the unthinkable, a full planetary strike on Earth, targeting its civilian population. No warnings. No demands. Just annihilation. Vel didn't flinch. We strike, and we win. They've made this a war of nerves. Let's make it a war of flesh. Kexil, the only one who still looked like he remembered what fear was, replied coldly. You assume they haven't prepared for that. You assume they're still there. Silence. What do you mean? Kexil activated an internal deepskin network, access granted only to 10 individuals galaxy-wide. Last known deep read of Earth's biosignature came 12 cycles ago. We've been locked out since. But I have fragments. He rotated the projection. A dark Earth. Cold. Empty. Energy readings consistent with drone activity, orbital defenses, but no life. No civilian traffic. No atmosphere cycling for population survival. It's abandoned. Vel spat. Impossible. Kexil looked him in the eye. They moved. Where? We don't know. But they left Earth intact. As a decoy. Callan's voice broke through the chamber audio, no signal origin, no source. Just presence. You always assumed Earth was our home. It was our cradle. It is not our throne. Across 1,000 council systems, identical messages began playing. One by one. No transmissions. Just playback. We learned from every empire you built and broke. We studied collapse like scripture. We cataloged your pride, your greed, your slow addiction to predictability. And while you fought wars to be seen, we fought for the right to vanish. On the council floor, walls shifted. Every AI system stuttered. Lights dimmed. Emergency shields activated by reflex. Every protection measure meant to resist outside intrusion was failing, from inside. You think we've hidden? You're wrong. We've simply finished watching. Callan's voice sharpened. From this point forward, Terran systems will not accept foreign interaction. Any intrusion will be met with retaliation calibrated to species-specific vulnerability. Your biology, your psychology, your infrastructure, none of it is unknown. We designed this disengagement to be permanent. Vel rose, eyes wide. This is extermination. No, Callan replied. This is extinction prevention. Ours, not yours. The council structure is incompatible with survival. We're removing ourselves from the equation. And we're taking our tools with us. The map of known space lit up one final time. Red blots spread across council-linked sectors. Each represented a Terran seed ship, long assumed to be exploration vessels. In reality, they were sovereign colonies, hidden, shielded, invisible to standard scans. Built to flourish without connection. 14 in total. All habitable. All isolated. Earth hadn't gone dark. It had replicated itself, then vanished behind the smoke of its own myth. The chamber lights surged one final time. Then went dead. Emergency backup engaged. The last words from Callan echoed through every mind still listening. We didn't conquer your systems. We just reminded them who wrote the code. The galaxy doesn't need our dominance. It needs our absence. No more signals came after that. Nothing more from Earth. Nothing ever again. The Council survived for 6 more days. Not because of strength, but because of disbelief. The remaining leaders, fractured, afraid, and increasingly irrelevant, clung to the illusion that Earth would return to the table, that this was a negotiation tactic gone too far. They convened emergency sessions, each more chaotic than the last, issuing declarations that no longer echoed past their own chambers. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was no longer listening. Kexel, once a voice of reason, now sat silent. He had stopped attending most sessions. In the last one he bothered to attend, he said only, "You are building a dam after the ocean has left." Then he walked out. Across council space, systems continued to fail in precise increments. Medical AI assistants shut down in synchrony. Navigation relays began broadcasting corrupted coordinates. Entire banking networks, once dependent on Terran-built encryption, reset to null values. Interplanetary economies ground to dust in hours. But there were no explosions, no fleets in orbit, no ultimatums. Just absence. Absence with design. Chancellor Vel gathered the final 9 remaining high delegates into a classified session. This cannot be how it ends. We've ruled this galaxy for centuries. We unified empires. We held back wars. We are the architects of order. No, said Kexel, reappearing just long enough to respond. You were the beneficiaries of Terran restraint. You called it peace because Earth allowed it. That wasn't unity. That was patience. We still outnumber them. You outnumber ghosts, Kexel said. But you're not chasing humans anymore. You're chasing their shadow. And you've already lost. The delegates attempted a vote. 3 abstained. 3 voted for diplomacy. 3 voted for escalation. Vel invoked emergency executive power and passed a resolution unilaterally, the reactivation of the Obsidian Fleet, 37 warships with non-networked systems, long considered too dangerous for peacetime. Manual override. No AI dependence. Analog weapons. Ancient, slow, and deadly. It was a last resort. They launched them in silence. 3 fleets were given one objective: locate and capture one of the 14 Terran seed worlds identified in the final broadcast. They targeted Girion 3, a planet hidden in the shadows of a black star, with no outgoing signals, no signs of civilization, just coordinates. The fleet arrived after 8 days of drift. No resistance. No orbiting defenses. No Terran ships in sight. They landed. The atmosphere was breathable. Gravity nominal. Scans indicated no human presence. So they stepped forward. What they found wasn't a city. It was a monument. A vault. Etched into the walls were timelines, names, and species identifiers, not of Terran achievements, but of Council atrocities. Genocides, suppressed uprisings, labor camps. Events long buried by diplomacy and denial. Inside the vault was a single device. A recording node. No guards, no booby traps. Just a cube of carbon and light. When activated, it played Callan's voice once more. This is not your trophy. This is your mirror. He paused. Chirion 3 is uninhabited. No population. No colony. We knew you'd come here first. We left this message to confirm what we've always known: you only respond to symbols. Not meaning. Not consequence. You came seeking leverage. You found your legacy. The voice ended. The cube cracked. Not with force, but with sound. A frequency buried in the vault triggered a resonance across all fleet communications. Secure lines collapsed. Targeting arrays cycled. Control systems froze mid-action. In the command ship, Admiral Krex screamed at his crew to disconnect all systems. Too late. In every Obsidian fleet ship, preloaded backup navigation programs activated. Each one was encoded with coordinates. Coordinates not for return, but exile. Each vessel spun out of control, fold engines primed. They were not destroyed. They were sent to the edge of known space, where retrieval was mathematically improbable. Drifting, alone, fully intact. Back at Council Command, Vel demanded a recall. His transmission received no acknowledgement. Moments later, the Council's final databank, a library of thousands of years of galactic law, culture, and memory, was wiped. Not deleted. Repurposed. Earth's final move. A single phrase replaced the archives. Absence is not weakness. It is the final word. The delegates watched in silence. One by one, the stars they once ruled disappeared from the Council's maps. Some blinked off from power failures. Others disappeared because they had never been real at all, constructs created by Earth to keep the Council's gaze focused in the wrong directions. What Earth truly built was never an empire. It was an exit strategy. By the time the Council realized they were speaking only to themselves, it was over. The Hell Ion Corridor, a Terran construction, once connecting over 1,000 sectors, shrank into silence. Each gate powered down. Each access key expired. No new paths were found. Earth was gone. Not defeated. Not hidden. Gone. Across the galaxy, strange reports began to surface. New trade routes forming, but without Council influence. Medical cures derived from unknown strains. Entire planets reporting surges in infrastructure growth, despite no known external aid. Anonymous. Coordinated. Human in design. Earth had left the Council's galaxy behind. And built another. Not ruled by politics. Not managed by consensus. Just shaped by survival. By choice. By silence. And in that silence, the old galaxy wept. Because it wasn't war they had lost. It was relevance.